There are those who move quietly through life, occupying the spaces where attention barely lingers. They do not seek the spotlight, nor do they shy away from life entirely. Instead, they find comfort in the background, where expectations soften and scrutiny fades. In these quieter corners, they can breathe, observe, and think without the weight of constant evaluation. Yet this calm is not emptiness. It is an intricate landscape of reflection, perception, and cautious engagement. For years, they have learned to navigate the world with subtlety, discovering safety in invisibility. Every glance, every interaction, is filtered through an inner lens, assessing risk, anticipating outcomes, and weighing the cost of exposure. The choice to remain behind is rarely about fear alone. It is also about preservation, about holding space for the self in a world that often values noise over nuance. And yet, beneath this careful composure lies a rich emotional life. They notice what others overlook. The tiny gestures, the fleeting expressions, the unspoken truths that drift between people. Their longing for connection exists alongside their need for safety, creating a quiet tension that shapes daily life. To step forward is both a temptation and a risk, a subtle invitation to be seen in a world that may not always understand. This is the delicate psychology of those who dwell in the background, a testament to the resilience, insight, and humanity that thrives where few watch, and where the heart quietly learns the art of being both present and unseen. There is a subtle art in observing without being seen. Those who feel safer in the background have honed this skill over years. Learning to move through the world with quiet awareness. They notice the slightest shifts in expression, the pauses in conversation, the unspoken currents that ripple through a room. From this vantage point, they gather understanding and insight, cultivating an internal landscape rich with perception. Being in the background is not merely avoidance. It is a careful negotiation between engagement and safety. Each step is measured. Each word is considered. The self learns to participate without exposure, to witness without intrusion, to be present without risk. In these quiet moments there is a freedom others may not see, a freedom to think, to feel, to process without the pressure of constant observation. Yet this quiet observation is not without its complexities. Beneath the surface, there is a constant negotiation between longing and restraint. The desire to connect, to be recognized, to have one's presence acknowledged exists alongside the need for safety and emotional preservation. The tension is subtle but persistent, a gentle rhythm of caution and curiosity. This chapter invites the viewer to step into that inner world, to understand the beauty and the fragility of the quiet observer. It is a space where vigilance meets introspection, where presence is intentional, and where the decision to remain in the background is both a protective measure and a profound expression of self-awareness. The inclination to remain in the background rarely arises without reason. It often traces its beginnings to early experiences, moments when the self learned that visibility carried risk. Perhaps a child's questions were dismissed, their curiosity met with impatience, or their presence overlooked. Over time, these subtle messages shape an understanding. To be quiet is safer, to blend in is wise, and to step forward is to invite uncertainty. Family dynamics and social environments play their part as well. Homes where praise is conditional, where attention is scarce, or where mistakes are magnified can teach the young self that being unseen is protective. Society reinforces these lessons, rewarding those who conform quietly, who do not demand notice, and who absorb rather than assert. Each experience adds a layer to the emerging pattern, layering caution over curiosity, vigilance over spontaneity. Yet even in retreat, the heart does not lose its longing. Desire for connection, for recognition, for authentic engagement persists, quietly nudging the self toward possibility. It is a tension between inherited caution and innate curiosity, between learned restraint and natural human expression. This chapter explores these origins, revealing how patterns of background preference are cultivated from childhood into adulthood. It is not a story of weakness, but of adaptation, a survival strategy refined over time. Understanding these roots allows insight into the profound intelligence and sensitivity that underpin the choice to dwell safely in the margins, waiting for the world to feel less threatening. The mind of someone who prefers the background is a complex landscape, alive with observation, calculation, and quiet reflection. Every social encounter is filtered through layers of assessment: what can be said safely, which gestures are acceptable, where attention might become risk. This vigilance is not mere habit. It is a deeply ingrained protective mechanism, shaped by experience and reinforced by the subtle cues of the environment. Psychologically, this behavior often intersects with heightened self-awareness and social sensitivity. They sense the emotional currents around them, anticipating reactions before they occur. The amygdala, that ever-watchful sentinel of the brain, may respond strongly to potential judgment or rejection, triggering caution and restraint. Simultaneously, the prefrontal cortex weighs outcomes, calculating the safest approach. Thoughts and feelings intertwine, producing a constant, almost imperceptible negotiation between desire for connection and need for safety. Social anxiety, learned restraint, and a heightened sense of empathy often accompany this pattern. They notice what others overlook: the nuances, the silences, the unspoken shifts, and yet they hesitate to make their own presence known. Their mind becomes both a sanctuary and a barrier, offering clarity and insight, while limiting exposure and risk. This chapter invites reflection on the intricate interplay of thought, emotion, and physiology that shapes the quiet life of those who dwell in the background. It reveals that their restraint is not emptiness, but a careful calibration, a sophisticated balance of perception, protection, and subtle engagement with the world around them. Within the quiet observer, a subtle tension persists, a constant negotiation between longing and restraint. On one hand, there is the desire to connect, to speak, to be recognized and understood. On the other, there is the ingrained caution that whispers, Stay hidden, remain safe, do not risk exposure. This inner conflict is rarely dramatic. It is a gentle, persistent rhythm shaping thoughts, feelings, and choices in ways that often go unnoticed by others. Each social interaction carries an internal weighing of risk. A smile may be measured, a word carefully chosen, a presence moderated. The self becomes attuned to potential judgment, critique, or misunderstanding, navigating spaces with precision and care. Yet this vigilance comes at a cost. Opportunities for intimacy, spontaneity, and expression may slip away, leaving a quiet ache beneath the surface. Self-reflection often magnifies the tension. The background becomes both a sanctuary and a constraint, a place where safety and longing collide. They may observe others freely, note the richness of human connection, and yet hesitate to step forward, wondering if their presence will be accepted or overlooked. This chapter explores the inner tug-of-war, illuminating the delicate balance between the desire to engage and the instinct to protect. It is in this tension that the psychology of the quiet observer is most visible, a testament to the subtle courage required to navigate the world carefully, and the quiet resilience that sustains those who live largely unseen, yet deeply aware of both themselves and those around them. There comes a moment when the quiet observer begins to notice the patterns that have shaped their life. Years of careful restraint, of choosing the background over the spotlight, suddenly appear in clarity. Each act of holding back, each moment of self-containment, is traced back to its source. Early lessons, cautious instincts, and subtle fears of judgment or rejection. Recognition does not bring blame, only awareness, a gentle illumination of how the mind and heart have learned to navigate the world. In this reflective space, the observer sees both the protection and the limitations that their habits have created. Safety was preserved, yet opportunities for connection, intimacy, and self-expression were often deferred. They noticed the tension between the comfort of invisibility and the yearning to participate fully, to be acknowledged, to belong. Patterns emerge not as flaws, but as survival strategies, finely tuned to preserve the self in unpredictable or demanding environments. Recognition itself becomes transformative. It allows understanding without pressure, insight without shame. The quiet observer begins to see that the choice to remain behind, while protective, is also a lens through which life is experienced, sharper, more attuned, more sensitive to nuance. This awareness opens the door to subtle shifts. Small acts of courage, tentative engagement, and exploration of presence beyond the margins. This chapter captures the turning point, where reflection brings clarity, and the self begins to understand the delicate balance between safety and participation, solitude and connection, observation and expression. Integration begins softly, without force or expectation. The quiet observer, having recognized the patterns of retreat and the subtle costs of remaining unseen, now begins to explore what it might mean to step forward, carefully, intentionally, and with compassion for themselves. It is a gradual unfolding, like the slow opening of a flower in sunlight, where each petal is a tentative act of presence. Small gestures become the first steps toward balance. A word spoken without overthinking, a smile offered without reservation, a personal opinion shared with care. Each is a quiet act of courage. The self learns that needs can be acknowledged safely, that boundaries can be expressed gently, and that engagement does not always demand exposure or risk. Integration is also internal. The mind and heart negotiate a new rhythm, where vigilance coexists with curiosity, and protection is tempered by openness. Fear may still linger at the edges, but it no longer dominates. The self begins to trust that presence can be measured, that connection can be approached gradually, and that the background is not a prison but a choice, now complemented by the possibility of participation. This chapter reflects on the delicate dance of stepping into visibility without losing the comfort of quiet observation. It is an exploration of balance, patience, and self-compassion, where the observer learns that they can exist fully both in the margins and at the center, weaving safety and authenticity into a life that honors both the desire to watch and the courage to be seen. There is a quiet grace in those who have lived mostly in the background. They have learned to observe, to listen, to feel with a depth that often goes unnoticed. Their lives are a mosaic of subtlety and insight, a testament to patience, sensitivity, and quiet resilience. In their careful navigation of the world, they have cultivated an intimate understanding of human behavior, a nuanced awareness that many overlook in the rush to speak and be seen. This chapter invites reflection on the beauty inherent in choosing the margins, not as surrender, but as a conscious engagement with life on one's own terms. There is courage in their restraint, intelligence in their observation, and a profound emotional richness that comes from inhabiting spaces where others rarely pause. Yet even as they cherish the safety of invisibility, there is an emerging recognition that connection, though tentative, is possible, and that presence can be measured without abandoning the quiet sanctuary of the self. Poetic reflection lies in the balance they achieve, between safety and openness, observation and participation, caution and courage. Their journey illuminates a truth about human diversity. Strength is not always loud, and bravery does not always demand the center stage. In the gentle release of fear, in the mindful integration of self-awareness and authenticity, they embody a tender wisdom. To dwell in the background is to see the world fully, quietly, and with care. And in that stillness there is beauty, insight, and a luminous courage that is uniquely their own.